So you've been working on the budget a long time. About how long have you been working on the state budget, all told?
Well, if you count the session that I worked in 1991, the representative I worked for was on House Appropriations, but he had just come off. He still wanted to be interested. So technically, since 1991, which is 33 years.
What's changed in that amount of time?
Well, one thing, again, going back to that first session I worked, just in this building, you could be here and not be able to hear the committee hearings, the deliberations about the budget, like the technology that exists now, to be able to get online and find out what is happening. That did not exist 30 years ago. So that's one good thing. This process is much more available to people, even if you're not in Austin. The one thing that could be done to make it even more accessible is to allow video testimony. Some states do that. Texas doesn't, unfortunately. But if there's a way for you to know, to see documents when they get posted, or to be able to watch budget hearings, or to watch ones that have already happened, if you're trying to figure out how to testify at the fall hearings or the ones that happened in February, you can actually get online and see the ones from last time and just get a good sense of what's a good way to do this and what's not a good way. Like, for example, you may have seen people get into arguments sometimes at these hearings. That usually does not go well. So the fact that everything is archived and online is a real plus for anybody who wants to try and figure out how do I become an effective advocate in this area.
We wouldn't have a budget at all if we didn't have money. So talk about the revenue side for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about taxes. Unfortunately, most people don't want to hear about that, but I think advocates need to understand you can show up and make a good case for more school funding or maternal health care, whatever. But if the legislature doesn't have the money, they're going to be in a tough spot. So the other key advocacy thing you might be asked to do is to support a change in a tax, or maybe even a tax increase. Like, you kind of have to be willing to understand why is that necessary. And the one of the summary documents shows us, like, when we don't have any taxes over the years, the state population grows, costs grow. So if you have the same amount of money, the same tax system, you're only going to get something good that you want in there at the expense of something else. And Texas is one of those states that doesn't have a lot of places to move money from one to the other. We're usually like around the bottom 5 in spending per resident, and that's because we're in the bottom 5 in taxes per resident. So I think revenue, when the controller goes to tell us how much money we have, that number is never going to be enough if it's just based on our existing tax system. So you don't have to be a tax expert, but you do have to be willing to understand that we're never going to have a really different outcome from the budget if we have revenue that every 2 years is stretched thinner and thinner. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and legislators and leaders like a lot to say, like a family, we tighten our belts, but the truth is, at a certain point, a family somebody goes and gets a second job. Yeah. Sooner or later, you got to get more money.
Well, if you have another child, you have to plan for a growing family. A lot of families also understand when they go to write their budgets that they might have higher insurance costs for their car and their home. The price of gasoline might go up, the food and groceries, all those costs. So maybe what they earned this year isn't going to be enough next year. So the cost of buying the same exact thing might go up. Our budget process doesn't start with that reality. It asks the education agency, tell us what you can do with the same amount of money we were giving per student. By the time the 26-27 cycle ends, it'll be 8 years without an increase. So that's not reality. So if we're saying do this the way a family does, a family is sometimes much more realistic about what they can do with the same amount of money.